the others would be coming in a while. And as we move and take our second and last lecture together, okay, this would be another opportunity for us to augment and refine and polish all our pediatric concepts. And once again, of course, we'll be spending 4 hours together for your pediatric nursing lecture. Okay, so I know it's a very, very busy week for everyone. And it's already December 3 dyan sa Pilipinas. Okay, Desyembre na, Christmas season na, and hopefully you are getting yourself much prepared, or you're getting yourself um, totally prepared and equipped for your upcoming NCLEX examinations. Okay, so nabalitaan ko kasi talagang gabi, araw, everyday ang inyong lecture. So I know there would be times na you'll feel a little bit exhausted, worried, you're also anxious for your upcoming examinations. But always remember guys, okay, tatandaan nyo lagi na lahat ng pinaghihirapan nyo ngayon, may ibubunga siya. Okay, may ibubunga. There's a very, very huge accomplishment and at the same time reward that you'll be getting at the end of the day. Okay? So, once upon a time, syempre yung mga mentors ninyo, yung mga lecturers ninyo were in your shoes. 'Di ba? Same rin yung naramdaman namin in the past. Okay, but moving forward, lahat ng mga pinaghihirapan ninyo araw-araw, magbubunga at magbubunga yan. Okay? So guys, of course, in the interest of time, and I know you have a lot of things well planned, okay, in the next few days. So let's start off with our lecture today. Okay, para at least kahit paano ma-maximize natin yung oras natin. Okay? So this is currently recorded on cloud. So we will just forward this to everyone, okay, in the situations or sa mga questions na mamimiss out ng mga ibang kaklase ninyo. Okay? So para lang ma-maximize natin yung oras natin. Okay. So from our first lecture last week, we left off with your respiratory disorders, so yung mga respiratory conditions natin in your pediatric population. Okay, now moving forward, we are now moving into more complicated, more difficult questions. Okay, one of them would be considering your cardiac conditions. Okay, so yung cardiac conditions natin, kung well observant kayo, if you are very, very keen, okay, in your examinations, test drills, test banks, okay, maraming questions in your cardio. Okay, so I really urge you guys to be well adept, okay, and well acquainted with your cardiovascular system. Okay, so let's move on to the first item, no? Okay, pag-usapan natin dito yung first item ng cardiovascular series natin or cardiovascular topics natin for today. Okay, so let me just share my PDF file here. Okay, so as we can see, okay, we will start off with number 16. Okay, so item number 16 states, okay, nakalagay dyan, you have a 2-year-old named Jonathan who has a patent ductus arteriosus. Okay, and prior to administering your digoxin, okay, the nurse should consider what? Okay, so, well, you have to know what your patent ductus arteriosus is. So this would now be a congenital heart defect. However, the main stem rather of your question would pertain to the administration of your medication. Okay? So, besides sa inyong congenital heart disorders, okay, your digoxin is also a medication of choice for the elder population or older population, okay, in cases such as your AFib, okay, and your A-flutters. Okay, so to talk about, okay, yung digoxin natin, Siyempre ito, madali na lang to. Kumbaga, alam niyo na yung mga concepts nyo when it comes to your digoxin. Okay, but just to recap, just to put further context in what digoxin does, okay, as a medication for your cardiovascular. So when we talk about your DIG or your digoxin, okay, this is considered, guys, as a cardiac glycoside. Okay, so alam niyo yan. Pagdating sa pharma ninyo, it's considered as a cardiac glycoside. Okay, and in your pediatric population, this is commonly used in your congenital heart disorders. In the older population, it's used for AFibs and aflutters. Okay, and this has three properties. Okay, di ba alam natin yung three properties niya? This should not be a positive inotropic. Okay, inotropic. Okay, it's a negative chronotropic. Okay, it's a negative chronotropic, and one more thing, another characteristic is a negative domotropic. Okay, so it's a positive ino, negative chrono, and negative dromotropic. Okay, now when we say inotropic as positive, okay, positive inotropic siya, this would now be something that would now increase the cardiac force. Okay, this would now increase the cardiac force. Okay, syempre pag sinabi nating negative chronotropic naman, this would now be, it decreases, okay, this would now decrease the cardiac rate. Okay, this would now decrease the cardiac rate. And when you say domotropic, this would now decrease the cardiac conduction. Okay, so cardiac conduction ang domotropic. Okay, so very, very easy. And just a recap for this one. However, there are two things you have to consider when it comes to your digoxin administration. First, always consider, okay, so yung mga considerations natin dito. Okay, considerations. Okay, always check for your potassium levels. Okay, always check for potassium levels. Okay, but put a star on this one, of course, alam na alam natin yan, check for the heart rate. Okay, always check for the heart rate of your patient. Okay, so in the two separate populations, your peds and your elderly, kapag adults ang pinag-uusapan natin, okay, adults natin, if the heart rate is less than 60, of course, you have to withhold. Okay, and of course, sa peds natin, when we talk about your peds, when it's less than 100, that's where you have to withhold as well. Okay? So, two parameters yan for adults, less than 60, kapag peds, less than 100. Okay. Now, what would now be your antidote? Okay? So, yung mga common questions sa NCLEX ninyo. What would now be your antidote for this one? Antidote, this would now be your Digibind. Okay? So, yan yung ano natin, Digibind, yung ating antidote. Okay, and another thing that you have to watch out for when it comes to your electrolytes, always check for hypokalemia. Okay, always check for hypokalemia. So in terms of your fluid electrolytes, your patient is at risk for decreased potassium. Okay, so always check for that one. Okay, now to go back to our question, which is somehow a very basic one. Okay, ang tinatanong dyan is the proper way or the appropriate way of administering your digoxin. Okay, so definitely when you count or when you measure your heart rate, you never count your heart rate just by counting 30 seconds. Always count them by a full minute. Okay, pero tayo, guilty tayo dyan. Okay, kahit ako nung estudyante ako, okay, when I count my heart rate, I always multiply 30 by 2, but it's not really appropriate, it's not safe. Okay? At the same time, okay, because you have a patient here who's 2-year-old, okay, when you give the medication at 92 and notify the physician, you have already committed a medication error here. Okay? So, best answer natin dito, guys, okay, would now be letter D. Letter D ang natin dito. Okay, what makes letter C incorrect? Bakit mali ang letter C? Because when you administer your digoxin, the most accurate and the preferred site of checking the pulse rate or heart rate would not be the radial, but instead the apical pulse. Okay? So, kailangan apical pulse ang kinukuha natin in or prior to administering your digoxin. Okay? So, hindi pa pwedeng radial, brachial, femoral, kailangan talaga apical pulse ang kinukuha natin dito. Okay? So, for number 16, answer natin dito, class, would now be letter D. Okay, our answer here would now be letter D. Okay, now in number 17, let's now go to another medication here. Okay, or question pertaining to your medications. Okay, so you have an infant with a patent ductus arteriosus. Okay, and which drug may be administered to achieve pharmacologic closure of the defect? Okay, so ang patent ductus arteriosus natin is considered as an acyanotic condition. Okay, so tatandaan natin acyanotic condition. If you go back to our lectures in the past, napag-usapan natin yung difference ng acyanotic sa cyanotic congenital heart defects. Okay, now there's one medication here preferred to, okay, promote closure, okay, of your what do you call this, your hole, okay, o yung septal defect na tinatawag natin. Okay, so the answer here would now be your indomethacin. Okay, so indomethacin, as considered, is a prostaglandin inhibitor. Okay, and the main role here is to promote closure of your septal defect. Okay, of course, for patients with heart, okay, conditions, syempre gumagamit tayo ng mga diuretic dyan. Okay, if they are of course prone to infections, we could give your steroids. Okay, and to promote proper conduction of the heart, okay, and proper contractility of the heart, we make use of your digoxin. But the main okay, pharmacologic purpose of your indomethacin is to close your septal defect. Okay, so sagot natin dito would now be letter D. Yeah. Okay, now number 18. Okay, number 18, you have to have your critical thinking here, of course. Of course, lahat naman ng questions natin, kailangan may critical thinking tayo. Okay, pero you have to really be on point when it comes to this third question in our cardiac disorders. Okay, so you are a nurse taking care of an infant with a congenital heart disease, okay, and you are monitoring the patient closely for signs of congestive heart failure. Okay, the nurse assesses the infant closely for which of the following or which early sign of CHF. Okay, so yun yung question natin dyan. Okay, so I believe na-discuss naman ang congestive heart failure sa inyo several times, even in your local boards. Okay, but just to backtrack lang and just to recap what we normally see, okay, what would now be the signs and symptoms of your patient with CHF. Okay, so we have your left-sided, okay, congestive heart failure. We have your right-sided congestive heart failure. Okay, so left CHF, right CHF. Okay, so first things first, laging tinuturo sa inyo, okay, kapag left-sided, lungs siya, di ba? Okay, lungs. Okay, that's your lungs. Okay, tapos pag right-sided naman, this would now be systemic. Okay, apart from that, ano yung mga kailangan natin tatandaan dito? When you have your left congestive heart failure, early siya, okay? This would now be your early form of your CHF, okay? Tapos, late form naman ang inyong right-sided congestive heart failure. Okay, so what are the signs and symptoms po ng inyong left congestive heart failure? Okay, so make use of the mnemonic CHOP. Okay, so ano yung mga signs and symptoms dyan? First of all, we have your crackles. Okay, so ang patient natin dito will develop crackles for a left or early CHF. Okay, meron tayong hemoptysis na nakikita dito sa patient natin. Okay, apart from that one, So kailangan rin po, okay, or hindi naman kailangan. Okay, usually nakikita rin natin to or thought niya in your patient with left congestive heart failure, and we have your pulmonary congestion. Okay, pulmonary congestion. Okay, pero ito yung ano natin dyan. Ito yung parang kicker natin dito sa ano na yan. They won't put, okay, kung lalabas man ito, it can come out in a SATA form. Okay, pero in a standalone question, they won't show these signs and symptoms. Rather, okay, if you have a patient suspected to have left congestive heart failure, the earliest signs, okay, would now be tachypnea and tachycardia. Okay, yan yung earliest sign, okay, of your left congestive heart failure. Okay, earliest sign of your congestive heart failure. Okay, dito naman tayo sa kabila. Okay, ang mnemonic naman natin dito, class. Okay, mnemonic natin. Okay. Okay, our mnemonic here would now be head. Okay, so ano yung mga signs and symptoms natin dyan? So meron tayong hepatomegaly in your patient with right congestive heart failure. Okay, meron tayong edema. Okay, meron tayong edema in your patients with right congestive heart failure. Of course, meron tayong ascites. Okay, and syempre, alam nyo rin to, distended jugular veins. Okay, distended jugular veins. And again, like the prior, okay, cluster, okay, hindi nila ipapakita yan in a standalone question. Okay, so ang kicker natin dito, okay, ang kicker natin dito, the earliest sign of a right-sided congestive heart failure, okay, would now be weight gain. Okay, so ito yung kicker niyan. This would now be the earliest sign of your right congestive heart failure. Okay, so that would be the kicker there. Okay, weight gain ang iano nila dyan. Okay, because of fluid retention in your patients. So yan yung makikita natin dito. Okay, but just to address, okay, yung question natin dito, okay, ano po yung early sign of CHF? Okay, so three options there are generally right-sided. We have your edema, you have your weight gain, and we have your distended jugular veins. Of course, ang sagot natin dito, okay, sagot natin dito, class, would now be letter B. Okay, sagot natin dyan would now be letter B, crackles. Okay, yan yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, let's go to number 19. Okay, number 19 tayo. Okay, so for number 19, a mother rushed her baby 2 days after birth to the hospital after seeing her baby having cyanosis during feeding. Okay, the child is having TET spells. Okay, and another synonymous term for TET spells would now be your hypercyanotic spells. Okay, so the patient here is diagnosed with TOGA or your transposition of great arteries. And to prevent further complication, the nurse should position the patient in what? Okay, specific position. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito, okay, would now be a knee chest position. Okay, in your NCLEX, okay, in your NCLEX, you would never go wrong, okay, you would never go wrong as an initial action, okay, if you opt for a position. Okay, just to give you an example, no, just to give you an example, your patient DSATs, okay, your patient DSATs to a high of 70%. Okay, what would now be your initial action dyan? Okay, do you raise the head of the bed? Okay, or do you give oxygen? Okay, so like I said, there's always a thin line when it comes to initial actions and best actions. Okay, so I would rather, okay, go for positioning first, okay, to maintain, okay, yung airway patency ng patient natin. But of course, when you change the stem of the question, no, to a best option, okay, of course, ang pinakamaganda dyan would be oxygenation. Okay, so paulit-ulit namin sasabihin ito sa inyo, okay, dahil palapit na yung examination. Don't commit those mistakes, guys. okay, when answering your questions. Okay, so apart from your knee chest position, for patients with cyanotic conditions, pwede ang fetal position, pwede ang C-shaped position, okay, or in older children, okay, pwede rin yung squatting position. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito would now be your knee chest position. Okay, now to review lang, okay, so to review, ano yung purpose? Okay, what would now be the purpose? You might be asking in your exam, what would now be the purpose of positioning? Okay, purpose of positioning in cyanotic heart disorders. Okay, what would now be the purpose of positioning in your cyanotic disorders? Okay, so the answer there would now be it is to increase, okay, venous resistance, or okay, something on the flip side here would now be to decrease, okay, venous return. Okay, and this would now be to decrease venous return. So same lang naman sila ng ibig sabihin. Okay, pero the main point here is when you increase venous resistance or decrease venous return, you don't want deoxygenated blood, okay, entering your right atrium. Okay, yun yung ayaw natin mangyari. Or if it does, okay, less or smaller percentage ng deoxygenated blood ang papasok sa right atrium ng patient natin. Okay, so that's the main purpose of positioning in your cyanotic disorders. And again, okay, you either put the patient in a knee chest position, okay, pwede yung C-shaped position, okay, or pwede rin yung fetal position, okay, and in older patients, you can do your squatting position. Okay, all right, so that would now be for your hypercyanotic spells. Okay, para sa hypercyanotic spells natin. Okay, however, by the way, you might have encountered this question in the past. You already saw, okay, yung patient mo na naka-knee chest position. So you have a patient here with a cyanotic condition, okay, in a squatting position. Okay, tatanungin kayo dyan, what would now be your intervention? Okay, so all you have to do there would now be to observe and monitor your patient. Okay, so kapag naka-knee chest position na yung patient natin dyan, okay, all you have to do would not be to stand by, monitor, observe your patient. Okay? All right, let's go to number 20. Okay? Itong question na to, without a doubt, is one of the most common questions I've seen in all test banks and exams of the NCLEX. Okay? Kasi tinatanong dito yung 4, okay, associated defects, okay, or 4 associated conditions in your TOF or your tetralogy of Fallot. Okay, so when we talk about your tetralogy of Fallot, okay, balikan lang natin yung tetralogy of Fallot natin, concepts natin sa TOF natin. Okay, we call this as your tetralogy of Fallot. Yan. Right? This is also known as, okay, your Etienne's Fallot. Okay, ang tawag natin dyan is your Etienne's Fallot. Okay, this is considered cyanotic by nature. Okay, and when we talk about your 4, okay, associated defects, okay, meron tayong number 1, to answer our question there, we have your pulmonic stenosis. Tama? Okay, number 2, we have your right ventricular, okay, we have your right ventricular hypertrophy. Okay, right. Without looking at your notes, okay, and without looking at your yung mga notebooks ninyo, just to review, we have your overriding, okay, meron tayong overriding of the aorta, okay, and lastly, okay, we have your ventricular, okay, septal defect, okay, ventricular septal defect, okay. One fact also, about your TOF, this is the most common cyanotic, okay, condition. Okay, this would now be the most common cyanotic condition. So among the long list of your cyanotic conditions, TOF ang pinaka-common dyan. Okay, so what would now be your surgery? Okay, what would now be your surgery? If you're taking your eventually in the future, if you'll be taking your certification examinations, especially sa PEDS, if you want to become a certified RN, they'll be asking these questions. If you want to be a certified OR nurse also, they'll be asking these questions. Okay, ano yung kanyang surgery of choice? This would not be your Blalock-Taussig procedure. Okay, this would not be your Blalock-Taussig procedure. Okay, that would not be your surgery of choice. Okay, so to go back doon sa ano natin, total na enumerate na natin yan. Okay, ano ang sagot po natin dito, nurses? Okay, sagot natin dito, class, would now be letter C. Okay, so just remember the mnemonic PROV. Okay, PROV, you have your pulmonic stenosis, you have your right ventricular hypertrophy, ventricular septal defect, and overriding of the aorta. Okay, so always remember to read all your options word per word, ha? Okay, let's go. Number 21, ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. Assuming that you already have a patient, okay, diagnosed with this condition, already in a preferred position, so naka-squatting position na siya, ano ang gagawin mo? Okay, so sabi natin kanina, all you have to do is just monitor, reassess, okay, and check your patient alone. Okay, so titingnan mo lang siya, mo-monitor mo lang siya, so wala tayong kailangang special intervention dyan. Okay, take no action if he looks comfortable, but continue to observe your patient. Okay, so yun yung mga pwede nilang mga ways on how to divert your concepts here. Okay, let's go to number 22. Okay, so for number 22, our question here is, you have a 6-month-old baby who has a patent foramen ovale. Okay, upon admission, what is expected or what is the expected disorder? Okay, so again, go back to your notes. Balikan natin yung mga notes natin in the past. Okay, ano ba ang patent foramen ovale? Is it acyanotic or cyanotic? Okay, so pag nagsisimula siya sa letter T, kung matatandaan nyo sa lecture natin, if it starts with the letter T, automatically cyanotic siya. On the other side, if it does not start with the letter T, automatic acyanotic siya. Okay, so cyanosis would not be a consideration there. Okay, clubbing of fingers, of course, would be an effect of your hypoxia. Hindi rin po yan. Okay, machinery murmur. Okay, yung machinery murmur, it's more for patent ductus arteriosus siya. Okay, but for your patent foramen ovale, will have a systolic murmur there. Okay, so answer natin dito would now be letter A for number 22. Okay, so you can automatically remove C and D here. Okay, dalawang considerations lang sa acyanotic would be a murmur. Okay, either a machinery or a systolic one. So like I said a while ago, machinery is more for patent ductus arteriosus. Okay, let's now go to number 23. So we're talking about a different disease entity here. Okay, so number 23, you're asked here, your patient is prescribed your aspirin, okay, for an apparent rheumatic fever. Okay, a nurse would question this order if there was a documented evidence of the following. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito, guys, would now be letter A, a viral infection. Okay, because we all know, okay, this can cause a neurological disorder, which is your Ray's syndrome. So if by any chance your patient has a viral infection, it is contraindicated for them to take in your aspirin. Okay, because you don't want any risk or any chances of your patient developing your Ray's syndrome. Okay, so Ray's syndrome kasi ang magiging effect nito, yung inyong aspirin. Okay, so for number 23, answer here would not be letter A. Very, very easy question there. Okay, let's go to number 24. Now we're talking about your Kawasaki disease. Okay, Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease is on the rise. Okay, I'm telling you, Kawasaki disease is on the rise right now when it comes to your NCLEX questions. Okay, so marami tayong feedbacks about Kawasaki disease, okay, from our students here. Okay, so Kawasaki disease, Kawasaki, okay, disease. or also known as your mucocutaneous, okay, lymph node syndrome. Okay, so this would not be your mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome. Okay, and the main effect, okay, pag pinag-usapan natin dito yung main effect, this would now be your systemic, okay, systemic vasculitis. Okay, vasculitis. Okay, so the branches of the heart, okay, the branches of the heart, not the heart itself, okay, would not be the main affectation here. Okay, so pag tinanong kayo, to be more specific, okay, which branch of the heart, okay, this would now be your coronary arteries. Okay, so yung mga coronary arteries natin yung main site, okay, or main affected part, okay, of a patient with Kawasaki disease. Okay, now, when your coronary arteries are affected here, this would now cause weakening of the blood vessel. Okay, and we know this as your aneurysms. Okay, so when you are also asked, okay, if this can come out in a SATA question, okay, what would now be the complications? Meron tayong coronary aneurysms, that's one. Okay, coronary aneurysms. Okay, that would now be one complication there. Okay, meron tayong clot formation. Okay, all right. And because there is clogging already, there's obstruction to your veins or to your arteries rather. Okay, meron tayong possible cardiac arrest in your patient. Okay, so pwede magkaroon ng heart attack. Okay, yung patient natin na may Kawasaki disease. Okay, now treatment-wise, okay, treatment-wise, okay, there could be a conservative approach for this one. Okay, and there would now be an aggressive approach for this one. Okay, so when it comes to your, okay, okay, natin dito. Sorry for that one. Okay, now for conservative approach, you give your aspirin. Okay, now among all your viral, among the list, okay, sa entire list ng inyong viral infections, okay, the exemption to the rule would always be your Kawasaki disease. Okay? So, lahat ng viral infection, bawal ang aspirin. With exemption to your Kawasaki disease. So, conservatively, we give your aspirin, okay? If you remember what I've said in the past, okay, we give your aspirin for anti-inflammatory purposes. Okay, that's the main purpose for this one. So, to reduce the size of your aneurysms, conservatively, we give your aspirin. Okay, but aggressively, okay, because you want this to, okay, you want this to be treated at the soonest possible time, okay, just to prevent your cardiac arrest in your patient. Aggressively, you give here, of course, your IVIG. Okay, so magbibigay tayo ng IV immunoglobulin sa patient natin dyan. Okay, treatment, IVIG, okay, for your patients here. Okay, what else yung mga ano natin dyan? I think we're well covered for this one already. Okay, yan yung mga ano. Like I said, this topic is on the rise right now when it comes to your PEDS. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito for number 24 would now be letter A. Okay, letter A ang sagot natin dyan. Okay. All right, number 25. Okay, so for number 25, which is the last item for your cardio, okay, which assessment data would be most indicative of a potential complication of your Kawasaki disease? Okay, so if you would see there, okay guys, lahat yan, lahat ng options natin dito class, makikita natin yan sa patient na may Kawasaki disease. Okay, literally, your patient would turn red. Okay, you would see your patient becoming red. Okay, change in skin color yan. Okay, magkakaroon rin tayo ng skin changes rin sa patient natin dito. Okay, so ang tinatanong dito is a complication. Okay, so we already have made mention of the 3 complications earlier. Okay, pero hindi natin siya nakikita as is, as I have enumerated to you. Okay? So, if you have eventual coronary aneurysms, you have clot formation, okay, meron tayong apparent or risk for cardiac arrest, okay, there would be apparent change in blood pressure in your patient. Okay? So, the three other options here are considered signs and symptoms and are not complications. Okay? So, you are being asked of the complication here, okay, and not the signs and symptoms. Okay, to emphasize and to clarify, A, B, and D. Okay, A, B, and D. The three other options are considered signs and symptoms. The complication here would now be letter C. Okay, complication there would now be letter C. That would now be our answer there. Okay, all right. Okay, moving forward, gastrointestinal disorders tayo mga kapatid. Okay, time check tayo. 8:48 na po dyan sa Pilipinas. Okay, 8:48. Okay, so guys, I don't know if you'll be taking your examinations prior to Christmas. Hopefully, 2024 would be one of your joyous and most exciting year ever. Okay, kasi 2024, ano, tawag mo dito, ang haba ng ginugol yung oras sa pagre-review. Okay, as I see your group chat, okay, pag nakikita ko yung group chat ninyo, sabi ko, naku, busy-busy tong mga kapatid natin. Okay, and I don't know if some of you are working at the same time or most of you are full-time students, pero sabi ko, napaka-busy nila sa ano na lang sa material na binibigay ni Sir Ninyo. Sir Saison, ang rami. Okay, tapos nag-extend pa kayo most often sa mga lectures niya. Okay? So anyways, like I said, hopefully this would be your best year yet, okay, in your nursing career. Sana mabiyayaan kayo ng okay, ng inyong mga NCLEX license. Okay? All right. Or yung mga US licenses nyo, I mean. Okay, let's now go to your GI disorders. Okay. Now, for GI disorders, okay, isa sa mga advice ko when it comes to your GI disorders. Okay? So, when it comes to your GI disorders, isa sa mga advice na pwede kong ibigay sa inyo when you are trying to treat or manage your GI disorders are following would not be following this next considerations. Okay, itong several considerations na sasabihin ko sa inyo. So GI disorders, okay, GI disorder considerations. Yun na lang yung ano natin dyan. Okay? Ito na lang yung heading natin dito. Okay? You won't go wrong with these considerations. Okay? So I make use of the mnemonic NIPA for this one. Okay? I make use of the mnemonic NIPA for GI disorder considerations. Okay, so if you have a patient who comes into your unit to the ED, okay, to the ED, or your patient would now be undergoing a surgery, okay, so things to consider for GI disorder is, okay, put your patient on NPO. Okay, so if your patient is vomiting, okay, nagda-diarrhea siya, okay, initially put your patient on NPO. Okay, may gastric distress, put your patient on NPO right away. Okay, in exchange, kasi nga, naka-NPO sila, nothing by mouth, okay, no drinks, no food, okay, letter I, to prevent, of course, your, okay, dehydration, you hydrate the patient. Okay, so you provide IV hydration per patient. Okay, so magbibigay tayo ng fluids necessary for your patient. Okay, you would not go wrong also with the use of your proton pump inhibitors. Okay, proton pump inhibitors. You won't go wrong with this one. When you give your Protonics, okay, pantoprazole, yung mga Zols natin dyan, you won't go wrong with that one. Okay, apart from this one also, okay, you can give your pain management for your patient. Okay, pain management for your patient na may GI disorder. Okay, and you give your antiemetics. Okay, antiemetics. You can give your Compazine, you can give your Zofran, Okay, yun yung mga common na mga antiemetics dito sa US. Compazine, Zofran, alright, what else? As a pharmacology binibigay yan. Okay? So these 5 considerations, like I said, you wouldn't go wrong, okay, when you use them for GI disorder. So this is in general, ha? Okay, this is in general. You won't go wrong with these considerations for a GI disorder. Okay. Now, let's answer questions, okay, given to you in your manuscript. Okay. Now, you have here a 5-year-old who was rushed to the hospital with persistent vomiting. Okay, a nurse monitors to closely for what? Okay, so meron tayo ditong ABG conditions here, acid-base conditions here. Okay, is it metabolic acidosis or metabolic alkalosis? So like we said, when you vomit, this would now be metabolic alkalosis. But when you poo, di ba, kapag tayo ng tae, okay, that would now be metabolic acidosis. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito would be letter C. Okay, napakadali. How I wish your exam would be like this. Okay, but like I said, you have to get through the easy questions. Okay, when it comes to your NCLEX, you have to get through your easy questions in order for you to get to the hardest questions of your NCLEX. If you're getting the hardest questions in your examinations, okay, you're not to relax, but you're already almost out of the woods dyan. Okay, kapag nandun na kayo sa mga hard questions, konti na lang, okay, pasado na yan. Okay, but if constantly you're getting easy questions in your examinations, kapag constant siya from start to finish, okay, madadali yung mga questions dyan, medyo doon, kakabahan ka dapat. Okay, kakabahan ka dapat. Okay? Ewan ko kung na-mention ko to sa inyo before in the past. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the past. Somehow, upon observation lang, okay, if your ECG tracing, yung mga ECG questions nyo, okay, may nag-pop na asystole, okay? May nag-pop na asystole doon sa exam ninyo. Nako, yun, kabahan ka na, okay? Kasi by far, by experience, no, pag may lumapit sa akin estudyante and they would say, sir, na may nakuha akong asystole. Okay, alam ko na yung next na mangyayari doon. Okay, alam na natin yung next na scenario doon. Okay? So hopefully wala kayong makuhang asystole sa examination nyo. And when we're talking about your EKGs, okay, sa EKGs, because we've talked about your cardiology a while ago, all you have to remember are 9. Okay, 9 ECG tracings. So you have your 3 sinus rhythms, your sinus rhythm, your sinus brady, sinus tachy. Okay, you have your AFib, you have your A flutters. Okay, you have your VTAC. Okay, meron kang torsades. Siyempre, meron kayong asystole. And what did I forget? Okay, VTAC, VFib. Yeah, may VTAC tsaka VFib to make it 9. Okay, so all 9 ECG tracings kailangan you know by heart yan. Okay, they won't ask you about bigeminis, they won't ask you about bundle branch blocks. Okay? Yun yung mga hindi masyado natatanong sa NCLEX. It's more of a certification examination. Okay, kapag yung more complicated ECG readings. Okay? All right. Okay, let's go to number 27. Okay, you have a patient here with a cleft lip, okay, on the right side, was just returned to the nursing unit following a surgical repair. Okay, now what appropriate position should the nurse place the client? Okay, so you have your patient with cleft lip. Okay, as expected, your patient would now have a chyloplasty. Okay, and we have 2 types of cleft lip. We have your bilateral cleft lip and we have your unilateral cleft lip. So you have to establish here muna, okay, you have to establish if it's bilateral or unilateral. Okay, and as we have mentioned in the past, bilateral means, okay, the fissure, okay, or yung hiwa, okay, we call that your fissure, okay, is either on your philtrum. So pag nasa gitna siya mismo sa may philtrum mo, that's considered bilateral. Or if you have two fissures, okay, dalawa yung hiwa niya, that's also bilateral. Okay, you can only consider it as unilateral kapag if it's at the side of your philtrum. Okay, so kapag isa lang siya on the side of your philtrum, that's considered unilateral. Okay, so dito as or for us to establish anong klase siya, okay, kasi yung cleft lip niya nasa right side lang daw, so this is considered unilateral. So always put the patient on the unoperative side. Okay? So answer natin dito would now be letter C. Okay? Our answer there would now be letter C. So you put the patient on the unoperative side. Okay? That's our answer there. Okay? Yes, that's our answer. Tama ba? Yeah. Okay, that's our answer there. Okay, and I'm just trying to confirm over our manuscript here. Okay, and if somehow your patient is if your patient has a bilateral cleft lip, okay, you put your patient in a prone position. Okay, or supine rather, supine position. Okay, all right, let's go to number 28. Okay, you have a patient with cleft lip and palate, has difficulty sucking, okay, sucking and swallowing milk. Okay, so your specialist designed an international feeding pattern knowing or known as your ESSR. Okay, what does ESSR stand for? Okay, so ESSR is a specialized form of feeding your patients with your cleft disorders. Okay, so there are two purposes for this one. Okay, first purpose is to maintain nutrition. Okay, first purpose of your ESSR is to maintain nutrition. And the second one is to prevent aspiration, okay, or abdominal colics. Okay, so dalawa yung purpose niya. To promote nutrition, okay, you want to promote nutrition, adequate nutrition for a patient. And the second one is to prevent your aspiration and your abdominal colic. Okay, so ang sagot natin dito, okay, so what is the main meaning of ESSR? E stands for enlarge the nipple, S stands for stimulate, okay, sucking, okay, S would be swallow, and the fourth one would be breath. Okay, so yan yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, let's go to number 29. Okay, so you have a patient here with cleft palate. 12 months yung patient natin dito. So a cleft lip repair was a cleft lip was repaired when he was 2 months old. Okay, his mother asked the nurse when he will be ready for a cleft palate repair. Okay, the most appropriate response is that cleft palate repair is usually done when. Okay, so further context for your cleft lip and cleft palate. Okay, further context. Okay, so when we have for, okay, or what do we have for cleft lip? Okay, cleft lip repair. Okay, so cleft lip repair, okay, the purpose there would now be to save the sucking reflex. Okay, so again, ano yung tawag natin dun sa repair ng cleft lip? This would now be your chyloplasty. Okay, this would now be your chyloplasty. Okay, now apart from that one, when you talk about your cleft palate repair, okay, when you talk about your cleft palate repair, this is your urinoplasty, okay, or this is your palatoplasty. Yeah. Okay, purpose of which is to save the speech of the patient. Okay, now to make it easier, okay, kailan ginagawa ang cleft palate or cleft lip repair? Okay, you do your surgery. Okay, surgery is done at 10 weeks. Okay, so if you remember, meron tayong tinatawag na rule of 10. Okay, meron tayong tinatawag na rule of 10 para dyan. Okay, now for your palatoplasty, surgery is done at 10 months. Okay, so surgery is done at 10 months for your urano or your palatoplasty. Okay, so to answer our question here in number 29, okay, our answer in number 29 would now be letter A. Okay, letter A ang sagot natin. Okay, prior to the development of your skin. Yan. Okay? Okay, number 30. Okay, pyloric stenosis tayo dito. Okay, so for pyloric stenosis, what is being asked? Okay, your patient is experiencing projectile vomiting. Okay? Now, the patient has absence of bile stains. Okay, what is the primary reason why bile is not present in your vomitus? Okay? So, when we talk about your pyloric stenosis or your hypertrophic, okay, pylorus, okay, hypertrophic pylorus, okay, the reason why it does not have bile, it's because the narrowing, okay, or the partial obstruction here would now be above, okay, the organ excreting your bile, which is your ampulla of Vater. Okay? So yung ampulla of Vater which excretes your bile is just below, okay, your pylorus. Okay? So ang sagot natin dito, okay, is letter C. Okay? So konting anatomy ang kailangan dito when you need to answer this one. Okay? So you have to know that from your esophagus going down to your stomach, okay, the next part there would now be your pylorus, okay, and after your pylorus, that's where your ampulla of Vater is, okay, which is in charge of excreting your bile. Okay, so hence, kapag may partial obstruction tayo dyan or may partial closure tayo ng pylorus, you wouldn't see a patient with a bilous or bile-stained vomitus. Okay, so yan yung sagot for number 30. Okay. All right, let's go to number 31. Okay, number 31. This is a very good question for number 31. Okay. So, which appropriate position should the nurse place the child with dumping syndrome after feeding to prevent indigestion? Okay, to prevent indigestion. So, dito, actually, indigestion, as we all know, in Tagalog is kabag. So, ano daw ang posisyon ng bata, okay, with dumping syndrome to prevent indigestion? Okay, eto lang. You can do this tonight when you sleep. Okay, kain kayo ng marami. Okay, kumain kayo ng marami hanggang kabaging kayo. Okay? Pero pag matutulog kayo, okay, you sleep on a specific side. Okay? You sleep on a specific side. Okay? And pag kinabag ka, okay, I would suggest you sleeping on the left side. Okay? Because when you look into the anatomy of your stomach, no? Okay? Kapag nasa left side ka, it facilitates the expulsion of your flatus. Okay? So when you have GI patients, okay, meron kayong mga patients with GI conditions, they came out of surgery. One parameter also, okay? By the way, if you'll be working as a nurse in the hospital, one parameter that your doctors want to see in your patients a couple of days after surgery would not be them passing out flatus. Okay? Because when you pass out flatus, it means your GI system is already functioning. Okay? So nagising na. Gising na yung GI system mo kapag you start off with passing out gas. All right? And one way for you, okay, to activate, okay, to keep that GI system awake, okay, and prevent indigestion, in this case, sa question natin is putting or letting your patient position themselves in a left side lying position. Okay. So kung gusto mong mautot, ini-empacho ka, okay, may indigestion ka, okay, try to position yourself, okay, in a left side lying position. Okay? However, okay, just a fact also, okay, if you somehow put your patient in a right-sided position naman, okay, you increase gastric emptying dyan. Okay? So you are trying to increase your gastric emptying when you put your patient in a right side lying position. Okay, and for normal people, okay, without any conditions, try nyo matulog. Okay, try nyo matulog in a right side lying position the entire night. Believe me when I say pag kagising mo, gutom na gutom ka. Okay, so you'll have uh, a very huge appetite to eat. Okay, kapag naka right side lying position ka the entire night. Okay? All right, let's go to number 32. Okay, so for number 32, you have a home care nurse, okay, who instructs the mother about dietary measures for a 5-year-old with lactose intolerance. Okay, so we're talking about your lactose intolerance here. Okay, so the nurse tells the mother that it is necessary to provide which dietary supplement in the child's diet. Okay, syempre hindi niya kayang um, um, hindi niya kayang ma-digest yung tinatawag natin na lactose dito. Okay, so of course, ang sagot natin would not be letter C. Okay, now, in case of you being asked, what would not be the signs and symptoms, no? Okay, let's talk about the signs and symptoms. All right, let me just write this down. Signs and symptoms of lactose intolerance. Okay? All right, signs and symptoms of your lactose intolerance. Mnemonic ko dito would not be F-band. Okay, F-band. Okay? So number 1, kapag may lactose intolerance ka, utot ka ng utot. So meron kang flatulence dito. Okay? So you would now be passing out gas more often, okay, when you have lactose intolerance. Okay, letter B, your patient will develop bloating. Okay, you'll feel bloated. Okay, kapag may lactose intolerance ka. Okay, what else? Abdominal cramping. Okay, that's the third sign and symptom for your lactose intolerance. Okay, syempre, you'll feel nauseated as well. So you'll have, okay, that urge to vomit. Okay, meron kang urge na mag-vomit dyan. And very, very common, of course, you'll have watery stools there. So your patient will develop diarrhea. Okay, diarrhea. Okay, talking about diarrhea na naman, Diyos ko. Okay, kahapon, okay, I had to work again yesterday. And then all of my patients, okay, lahat may C. diff. Okay. Lahat ng patient ko yesterday, okay, had to be isolated because of rule out diagnosis of C. diff. Okay, here in the US, we're very very cautious, no, very very ano talaga when it comes to C. diff. Okay, so when you go, one thing also, this C. diff is also a very very common topic in your NCLEX. So you'll be asked of questions, okay, what to do, okay, when you isolate these patients. Okay, you will be also asked how to protect yourself against C. diff. Okay, these are questions that come out in your NCLEX. Okay, and ano yung treatment, okay, for patients with C. diff. Okay, yan yung mga questions na pwedeng tanungin sa inyo. Alright, just to, okay, nakwento ko lang yung experience ko kahapon. So, I was washing my hands all the time yesterday because I had like several patients having C. diff. Okay? So, yan yung ano natin dyan. Alright, let's go to the next one. Okay, so kumbaga, papasok ka sa kwarto, kailangan naka-gloves ka, kailangan naka-gown ka, okay, and then when you go out, hand wash, you go to another room, gown, gloves, so kailangan ano, okay, naka-don ka ng proper PPE mo every time you go inside the room. Okay? Alright. Kaya very tasking, okay? Very tasking when you work with patients with C. diff, okay? Because you go out, you go in, go out, go in, okay? Kailangan proper PPE ka. Okay, let's go to number 33. Okay, now you have a patient here, okay, showing signs, or which of the following here would not be an apparent or expected sign for a patient with intussusception? Okay, intussusception. Okay, now, with all the GI disorders that we have discussed in the past, Okay, this is one of your GI disorders with a bleeding condition. Okay, may bleeding episodes ang patient natin na may intussusception. Okay, the others, wala silang bleeding. Okay, so punta tayo sa letter A muna. Okay, letter A, as we all know, when you see two words, namely projectile vomiting, this is pyloric stenosis right away. Okay, so projectile vomiting without bile, pyloric stenosis siya. Okay, ribbon-like stools, we all know this would not be your Hirschsprung's disease. Okay, we all know this is your Hirschsprung's disease for your ribbon-like stools. Other signs and symptoms for your Hirschsprung's disease would not be a pencil-like stool and a ribbon-like and a what do you call this one? Pencil-like, ribbon-like, pellet-like stool. Okay, pellet-like stool. Okay, letter C, abdominal distension, pale daw yung patient, tapos may watery stool. This can be somehow very broad, no? Okay, very broad because your patients with GI conditions can often, okay, be seen with watery stools. Okay? Pero more specifically, when we talk about your intussusception, okay, this would now be abdominal pain accompanied by a sausage-shaped mass. Okay, sausage-shaped mass when it comes to your intussusception. Okay, so apart from your sausage-shaped mass, your patient will develop your currant jelly stools. Okay, patient natin would develop your currant jelly stools. Okay, let's go to number 34. So our answer in number 33 would now be letter D. Okay, number 34. So you have a clinic nurse, okay, reviewing records of a 3-week-old infant. Okay, then in the notes that the physician has documented a diagnosis of Hirschsprung's disease. Okay, the nurse reviews the assessment findings documented in the record, knowing that which of the following symptoms may likely lead the mother to seek healthcare for the infant. Okay? So, ang sagot natin dito, okay, would now be letter D. Okay? Kasi na-mention na natin to. Ribbon-like, pellet-like, pencil-like, Hirschsprung's disease automatically yan. Okay, now, let's go to number 35. Okay, which test, okay, provides your definitive diagnosis? Okay, again, just to go back, okay, this will greatly help you guys. Okay, this will greatly help you in your exam. So when we say, okay, when we say confirmative examination, okay, confirmative examination, this would always be considered as conclusive, okay, definitive, okay, or these are all considered as your gold standards. Okay, tatandaan nyo lagi yon. Pag confirmative examination, it's conclusive, definitive, gold standards yung mga yan. If it's a screening examination, it's merely suggestive. Okay, it's merely suggestive. So always look into the terms they're using, okay, for diagnostics, if it's either definitive or screening lang siya. Okay, so definitive ang ano natin dyan, ang sagot natin dito would now be rectal biopsy. Okay, this would now be your rectal biopsy. Okay, all right, no parasite seen. We don't see any parasites when it comes to Hirschsprung's disease. Okay, however, okay, instead of having an upper GI series, most likely your patient would be submitted for a lower GI series here, okay, or what we call your barium enema. Okay, that would not be your screening testing. Okay, so we're done with your GI. Okay, move tayo forward sa musculo natin. Okay, so musculo naman tayo. All right. Okay, so we have how many questions here for musculo? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, we have 10 questions for this one. Okay, now for your musculoskeletal disorders, first item tayo dito. Okay, so you have a nurse, okay, teaching self-care management to a teenage patient who is being treated for scoliosis using a Milwaukee brace. Okay, which of the following statements, if made by the patient, indicates a correct understanding? So you're looking for something positive, something appropriate, okay, for your health teachings here. Okay? So, what would now be your considerations? To be more specific, okay? Go back doon sa mga topics natin in the past. Okay, let's talk about your Milwaukee brace. Okay, Milwaukee brace ang topic natin dito. What would now be your considerations for your Milwaukee brace? First of all, okay, when you use it, always use it 23 hours daily. Okay, 23 hours daily. And 1 hour, okay, for rest and bathing. Okay? So, on a daily basis, okay, for an everyday use, 23 hours siya, 1 hour lang for rest and bathing. Okay, number 2, okay, would not be the duration, okay, and the normal and the common duration here would not be 2 to 3 years. Okay, of course, this would not depend from patient to patient, individual to another individual, okay, on the severity of their scoliosis. Okay, third, okay, so kailangan cotton shirt first, tama, okay, cotton shirt first, tapos brace after. Okay? So kailangan cotton shirt mo nang gagamitin ng patient mo. You wear your cotton shirt first, and then that's when you put the brace after. Okay? Tapos number 4, which is the last one, you have to avoid, okay, lotions, creams, okay, powders, okay, and oils. Okay? To prevent any risk for skin breakdown. Okay? So, these are considerations for patients donning or wearing your Milwaukee brace. Okay? That does not only apply to your Milwaukee brace, this can also apply to your Boston brace as well. So, any form of brace, okay, any form of your brace for your musculoskeletal conditions, okay, yan yung mga considerations natin dyan. Okay? All right, so to answer our question here, ay balikan natin yung question natin. Okay, ano daw yung correct notation or statement, okay, that would show understanding? Okay, answer here would now be this one, okay? Letter A. So I can swim for 1 hour without the brace, okay? Letter C, I can remove the brace for sleeping. No, okay, we don't do that, okay, because we only remove this for, okay, taking a bath and temporarily resting your patient's back. Okay? So, syempre, pwede pa rin naman mag-drive yung patient natin dyan. Okay? And at the same time, you never put, okay, any clothing, okay, over your brace. Okay? Actually, pwede naman. So, pero t-shirt muna, brace, and then you can put a jacket over. Okay? Especially ngayon. Ngayon, ano na, super lamig na po dito. We don't have snow as of the moment. Wala pa kaming snow dito sa New Jersey as of the moment. But today actually is the coldest it has been this past few months. Okay? So we were like around 20 degrees Fahrenheit a while ago. Okay? Dito sa South Jersey. Okay? So super lamig. Pagkalabas ko ng work a while ago, okay, nanginginig ako. Doble-doble na yung jacket ko kanina pagkalabas ng hospital. Okay? And I hope you experience that in the future. Marami sa inyo for sure nakapunta na dito sa US. You might have relatives already here. Okay, pero I want you to experience in the future yung 4 seasons ng US. Okay? Sa atin kasi dalawa lang yung season natin dyan sa Pilipinas. Tagyaman at saka taghirap. Okay. Okay, di biro lang, biro lang. Okay? So yan, let's go to number 38 na tayo. Ay, sorry, 37 pala, 37. Okay, so you have an 18-month-old child admitted with diagnosis of your developmental hip dysplasia. Okay, during the assessment, okay, the nurse should elicit the Trendelenburg sign. Okay, so contrary to belief, okay, ang Trendelenburg sign is not necessarily in a lying position, okay, when we're talking about your developmental hip dysplasia. Okay, so pag pinag-usapan natin ang DHD and we are talking about your Trendelenburg sign, you don't let your patient lie down. Instead, okay, instead you let your patient stand up, okay, or bear weight doon sa legs niya. Okay? So, kung tatayo yung patient mo, okay, let's just assume this would not be the legs or lower extremities of your patient. Okay, papatayuin mo siya. To elicit the Trendelenburg sign, you bear weight on the affected side. Okay, so this would not be the left leg. Assume natin ito yung left leg ng patient natin. Ito yung right leg niya. Okay, left leg, right leg. To elicit the Trendelenburg sign, you bear weight on the affected side. Okay, so yung affected side yung magbe-bear ng weight, and this would now push the affected side, okay, to become shorter. Okay, kasi nga po, yung patient natin na may DHD, it's either partially or completely displaced. Okay, yung kanilang femoral head sa kanilang acetabulum. Okay, especially if it's completely displaced, this would now shorten the limb of your patient. Okay, so the only way to elicit your Trendelenburg sign is to either let the patient stand, bear weight on the affected side, or you can even ask the patient to walk. Okay, so pag yung patient mo naglalakad, okay, so lumiliit yung affected limb niya dyan. Okay, or nag-shorten to be more exact. Okay, so the answer here for eliciting your Trendelenburg sign would now be a standing position. Okay, all other positions here are either in a sitting or lying position, which doesn't really elicit this sign for a patient. Okay, now number 38, as discussed a while ago, okay, we're talking about your braces. Okay, ang tinatanong dito, which statement by the parent indicate a need for further instruction? So we're looking on a negative, okay, statement of your patient here. Okay, so exercises are very, very valuable. Exercises are very integral or very beneficial for patients with scoliosis. So that would now be a positive, okay, statement there. Okay, you make use of soft fabric clothing. Okay, more specifically, cotton ang gagamitin natin dito. Okay, so mag-opposite or magkasalungat si letter A at si letter B. Okay, you apply lotion or you avoid the powder or avoid the use of powder. So sagot natin dito as a negative statement would not be letter A. Okay, so yun yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, let's go to number 39. Okay, to treat congenital hip dysplasia, okay, which position should be maintained? Okay, should be maintained. So assuming this would not be the lower extremities of your patient, okay, left leg, right leg po yan. Okay, first of all, kailangan nakabuka, okay? Or we know this as your abduction. Okay, so kailangan nakabuka yan. Okay? Now, in terms of the knees naman, okay, yung knees, yung tuhod ng patient natin, kailangan ba naka-flex or naka-extend? Okay? So, dito nagkakaroon ng error when it comes to, so we all know it should be abducted, okay, pero is it extended or flexed? Okay? Naka-extend ba yung extremities or naka-flex? Okay, ang sagot dito is kailangan naka-flex po siya. Okay, naka-flex po yung ating lower extremities. So answer here would now be letter C. Okay, so you have over the last page, I believe, okay, doon sa last page ng inyong final coaching material, okay, there are contraptions, there would now be an equipment used specifically for patients with congenital hip dysplasia. And you would see that the patient's legs are abducted, tapos naka-flex po siya. Okay? All right. Okay, let's now go to tractions. Okay, I believe na discuss naman sa inyo yung tractions. Okay, pero if on our end hindi masyado, bigyan ko lang kayo ng chart dito when it comes to your tractions, baka makatulong rin to sa inyo. Okay, now your patient is using a Bryan's traction, okay, to evaluate the correct application of the traction, the nurse should note that what, okay. So when I actually, okay, when I write the word tractions, okay, drawing lang ako dito. When I write the word Bryant's pala, to be more exact. When I write the word Bryant's, okay, I write it this way. Okay, I don't know kung naituro na to sa inyo ng mga ibang lectures nyo. Okay, pero this helped me a lot in tractions. When I write the word Bryant's, I write it like this. Okay, that's letter Y. Okay, Bryant's. Okay, yan. So when I write the word Bryant, ganyan yung pagkakasulat ko dyan. Okay, so yung letter Y, this would now simulate or this would now mimic your buttocks. Okay, ito yung bottom ng bata. Okay, tapos I just simply draw an arrow there. Okay, pointing upward. Because if this is the bed of your patient, okay, ito yung bed or yung kama ng patient natin, kailangan yung puwet, okay, or yung buttock should be slightly elevated. Okay, it should not be touching the bed. Okay, it should be slightly elevated para ma-maximize or ma-optimize yung inyong traction. Okay? So, always remember for every traction, there would now be a counter traction. Okay? And to optimize the traction, kailangan yung puwet ng bata or puwet ng patient mo is slightly elevated from the bed. Okay? So that would now be the preferred position of your Bryant's traction. Okay? So, ang sagot natin dito is letter B. Okay, letter B dyan. Okay, now, to give you an insight or further context lang when it comes to your tractions, okay, like I said, I'll be giving this sa inyo later on. Okay, so after our lecture, give me time to edit this one. I'll be sending it over GC. Okay, kung magagamit nyo, well and good. Okay, kung mabasa nyo, or kung may mga notes na kayo dyan, better. Okay, so let's talk about two types of tractions. Okay, meron tayong skin tractions at saka meron tayong skeletal tractions. Skin tractions, okay, skin tractions, at meron tayong skeletal tractions. Okay? Most likely na-discuss na to sa inyo pero just to add further context to this one. Okay. Now, first of all, okay, pag-usapan natin dito yung purpose. Okay, yung mga purposes natin per traction. So when you talk about your skin traction, this is specifically for immobilization alone. Okay, so just to immobilize the limb, just to immobilize the extremity, okay, gumagamit tayo ng skin traction. Okay, for skeletal naman, it is also used. Okay, it is also used for immobilization. Okay, but the more, okay, or the primary use rather, okay, of your skeletal traction is for bone repair. Okay, so most likely meron kasi tayo ditong fracture. Okay, may fracture tayo dyan. Okay, next, punta tayo dun sa equipment. Okay, equipment na ginagamit. Okay, so syempre gagamit tayo ng ano dito, weights lagi. Okay, because your traction would always be your weights. Okay, pero apart from your weights, okay, weights can go in the form of yung mga metal weights natin or pwede sandbags. Okay, dito sa hospital namin, we specifically use metal weights. Okay, in other older settings, they make use of sandbags. Okay, now besides your weights, you make use of your splint. Okay, so gumagamit tayo dyan ng splints. Okay, on the opposite end, okay, gumagamit pa rin tayo dito ng weights. Okay, pwede rin tayong gumamit ng mga splints dito. Okay, because you're after bone repair here, Okay, you can either use screws, okay, pins, okay, and wires. Okay, so pwede tayong gumamit ng mga wires dyan. Okay, so that would not be for equipment. Okay, apart from your equipment, what would not be the duration? Okay, what would not be the duration of use? Okay, so duration of use dito, most often it's less than 8 weeks. Okay, less than 8 weeks kapag skin traction. Okay, pero pag skeletal tayo, more than 8 weeks. Okay, more than 8 weeks ang ano dyan. Okay? Okay, ano pa yung dadagdag natin dito? Okay, nursing diagnosis. Yan. Okay, very, very common question dyan. Your patient comes in with a box traction. Okay, what would be your nursing diagnosis for your patient? Okay, so impaired tissue perfusion. Ang ano dyan. Okay, impaired tissue perfusion or risk for impaired tissue perfusion. Okay, nursing diagnosis dito naman sa kabila. Okay, so your patient here, okay, with a skeletal traction can be prone to bone infection. Okay, specifically sa osteomyelitis. Okay, so risk for infection. Okay, so what do you need to watch out for? Okay, what do you need to watch out for patients with the following? Okay, kapag ang patient mo meron siyang skin traction, too tight yung traction, yung splint na linagay. Okay, you are putting your patient um in or at risk for impaired tissue perfusion. Okay, the complication that you have to watch out for would not be compartment syndrome. Okay, compartment syndrome ang kailangan mong bantayan. Okay? And if you have learned in your lectures, we have two types, okay, of compartment syndrome. Meron tayong external, okay, compartment syndrome, and meron tayong internal compartment syndrome. Okay? So this is most likely this patient can likely develop your external compartment syndrome. Okay? So what do you have to watch out for? This one, I mentioned ko na to kanina. Watch out for osteomyelitis. Okay? Watch out for osteomyelitis. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, yan yung ano natin dyan. Yan yung mga dagdag lang. Okay? Dagdag nuggets lang. Okay? Pagdating sa inyong skin at saka skeletal traction. Okay? So that would now be for your tractions. Okay. By the way, ang rule dyan is, okay, rule for every traction, okay, there will always be a counter traction. Okay, so when we talk about your traction, this should not be your weights. Okay, this should not be your weights. Okay, and at the same time, ang counter traction po natin dito would now be your patient's, okay, body weight. Okay, patient's body weight. Okay, now, in terms of manipulation, okay, other rules pa dito ha. Okay, other rules when it comes to traction. Okay, other rules when it comes to traction. Okay, never manipulate the traction. Okay, never manipulate the traction. The only person, okay, the only person, okay, the only person allowed, okay, to manipulate the traction would be, of course, the physician, or we call this in your lecture, healthcare provider, or any certified healthcare professional. So kailangan may certification ka dito. Okay, you have to be certified to manipulate your traction. Okay, third thing also that you have to remember there is, okay, tractions should not touch the floor. Okay, so like I said, Just to review, okay, yung mga naturo sa inyo, lahat ng weights, sandbags, hindi dapat nagtatouch sa floor. They should be always suspended, okay, in air. So, kailangan nakasuspend sila sa air. Okay? Yan yung mga rules natin dyan. And just to add further context lang dito. Okay? Alright. Okay, let's go to number 41 tayo dito. 41. Okay, so you have a patient with a compound hip fracture. Okay, may compound hip fracture tayo dyan. Okay, all of the following are nursing diagnosis. Okay, which one is of highest priority? Okay, so when we talk about your fractures, by the way, okay, so pag pinag-usapan natin dito ang fractures, you have several forms of fractures here. Okay, when we say compound, another term there is, or when we say open rather, okay, when we say open, that's also known as your compound. Okay, pag sinabi nating closed, okay, this would now be your simple fracture. Okay, simple fractures. So kapag open or compound, this would now be something that penetrates the skin. Okay, so syempre, kapag close naman siya, skin is intact. The skin is intact. So if your patient has a compound or an open fracture, you're at risk for bleeding, okay, or hemorrhage. Okay, so ang sagot natin dyan, okay, to answer the question here, okay, walang bleeding dyan, di ba? Okay, walang bleeding, okay. Pero secondary to that, that would now be risk for infection. Okay, kasi wala naman tayong dito. Wala tayong bleeding. Okay? Okay, so the answer there would now be letter C. Okay, and by the way, when you have patients, okay, with penetration to the skin, okay, or post-surgery, galing sila sa isang surgical procedure, okay, the first 12 hours, priority would always be bleeding. First 6 to 12 hours, priority there is bleeding. Never answer infection, okay, within 24 hours. Okay, within 24 hours. Most likely infection can happen 48 to 72 hours or even beyond. Okay, or even beyond. Okay? So, 6 to 12 hours, bleeding lagi ang priority, highest priority. If you have a post-op patient or in any cases of penetration to the skin. Okay? All right, let's go to number 42. Okay, so for number 42, you have a routine physical examination on a 2-year-old patient named Janet. Okay, you uncovered an evidence of congenital dislocation. Okay, all right, and a dysplasia of the right hip. Okay, when assessing rather, okay, Janet, a sign of one-sided hip dysplasia is what? Okay, so you have two opposite options here. Okay, symmetrical and asymmetrical. Okay, answer natin dito of course is asymmetrical skin folds. Okay, so if you have patients, infants to toddlers, you'll have skin folds or gluteal folds which should be equal on both sides. Okay, so yung gluteal folds, makikita mo yan sa ilalim ng puwet. Okay, so kung isa ang gluteal fold on the left side, normally, isa rin dapat sa kabila. Okay? If there's a difference between the quantity, there's gonna be a high chance that the patient may have a dysplasia of the hip. Okay? So, kailangan equal siya or symmetrical. Okay, next, number 43. Okay, development of your dysplasia or developmental dysplasia of the hip is often discovered by the nurse in the nursery, okay, when the infant's assessment reveals what? Okay, so same, parang similar lang to doon sa previous item natin. Okay, there should be a symmetry of your gluteal folds. Okay, may asymmetry of your gluteal folds dyan. Okay, let's go to number 44. Okay, now the priority of care in the immediate post-operative period of a youngster with a newly applied spica cast, okay, would be what? Okay, so ang sagot natin dito would now be to check, of course, your neurovascular status. Okay? So, when you have patients with CAS, okay, so kapag meron kang mga patients with CAS, okay, may mga patient kayo na may CAS, okay, may mga braces, okay, always check for your neurovascular status. Okay, neurovascular status. And there are three. Okay, there would always be three components of your neurovascular status. We have your letter M, we have your letter S, at saka meron tayong C. Okay, so letter M would now be your motor status. Okay, and we look into, okay, or we check for their movement. Okay, kapag okay, motor status ang pinag-uusapan natin dyan. Okay, number 2, we have your sensory status. Okay, so siyempre titingnan natin dito yung sensation. Okay, if they can feel it, if there's numbing, tingling, or we medically know this as your paresthesias. Okay, so kailangan tinitingnan natin yung sensation natin. May decreased sensation ba? Nafe-feel ba nila yung pag you touch their extremity, you touch their leg or their arm, okay? Tapos letter C of course would now be circulation. Okay? So circulation would include definitely your capillary refill if it's less than 3 seconds. You have to check for the color, you have to check for the warmth of your extremity. These are things that you have to look into for your circulation. 3 components lagi yan, motor, sensory, circulation. Okay, for your neurovascular status. Okay? All right. Okay. All right, last item for this one, and actually after this one, we can have your break. Okay, so which nursing diagnosis, okay, should take the highest priority when working, okay, with an adolescent with scoliosis. Okay, so if you remember, by the way, okay, if you remember our discussion in terms of your scoliosis, okay, or the misalignment of your vertebrae, okay, just to add, just to help you out again, or just to polish or remember yung mga napag-usapan natin doon, kapag may backward curvature tayo, okay, forward curvature, okay, may sideward, okay, or lateral curvature, okay, ano yung mga, ano itong mga to, okay, so when your vertebrae leans to the back, okay, ang tawag natin dyan would now be lordosis, tama, okay, pag forward naman siya, ang tawag natin dyan is kyphosis, okay, tapos pag sideward or lateral curvature, this would now be your scoliosis. Okay, now, question that can be asked of you, where would its commonality be? Anong populations very common tong mga to? Okay, so pag sinabi nating backward curvature, lordosis, okay, para sa mga pregnant women yan. Okay, pregnant women. Okay, kapag lordosis ang pinag-uusapan natin. Okay, pag kyphosis naman, more of the elderly. Okay, mga elderly patients natin. Okay, and please don't forget this one. Kay scoliosis, very, very specific si NCLEX dyan. Okay, this would not be school age females. Okay, school age females. Very specific si NCLEX dyan. School age females. If you don't see the word female, go for someone within the school age period. Okay? So ang school age period natin dyan, if you remember, would be like around 6 to 12. Okay, 6 to 12 kapag school age individuals. Okay, so if you were given like 2 options, school age tsaka females, go for school age kagad. Okay? School age would be more appropriate compared to the female population. Okay? All right. Okay, so to answer this one, okay, so your patient is an adolescent. Okay, adolescent naman yung ano natin dito. Okay, so if you go deeper, okay, what would now be their concern when they have a disfigurement, okay, of their body? Okay, answer natin dito would now be this one. Okay, sorry. Okay, this would not be letter E. Okay, our answer here would not be letter A. Body image disturbances related to treatment of your scoliosis. Okay, so yun yung sagot po natin. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will have our break. Okay, you can grab your coffee, you can grab a quick bite for your breakfast. Okay, we'll be having a 20-minute break. Okay, so it's currently 8:48. Okay, dito sa amin. 9:48 dyan sa inyo. Okay, 9:48. So we can start at 10:08. Okay, 10:08 tayo. Tama ba? 10:08 po. Pag 20 minutes. Yes, yes. Okay, so we will start at 10:08. Okay, Philippine time. Okay, so 20-minute break lang po tayo and we'll resume our second half of our lecture. So I'll be seeing you in a while.